Now that we have filled out when we need to submit our orders for the parts to do our final assembly, now we need to figure out how many wing decorations, wings, and cockpits need to be made and when. So we're continuing to work backwards. Well, for that final assembly, what needs to be submitted is wings with decorations on them. So the gross requirement for our decorated wings is going to be the 15 wings that are going to be the 15 plain parts that are going to be ordered on day 9. We're going to need to send off those decorated wings on that day. Well, we have 2 wings per plane, so the gross requirements for day 9 are going to be 15 times 2, which gives us the 30. Because final assembly is going to order 70 parts of planes to assemble on day 16, when we get that order, we're going to need to send 2 wings per plane with the decorations on it, so our gross requirements for day 16 is 140. Now we go back to our projected on hand and we notice we started with 20. We received 10 additional decorated wings on day 6, which gave us 30 on hand. And we continue to have 30 on hand when we need to send 30 off on day 9. So our net requirements on day 9 are 0 because we had the 30 that we needed to ship off. That also means that the projected on hand on day 10 are 0. We have none left. But we do have 20 decorated wings arriving on day 11, which means our projected on hand for day 11 is 20, and we have it on hand for the 12th and the 13th as well. Which means on the 16th, when we get a call from final assembly that they need 70 planes worth, which is 140 decorated wings, we will have 20 on hand. We will need 120. Since we do not have to order in batches, we can order exactly what we need, then our planned order receipt is the same as our net requirement. When it comes to wing decorating takes 3 days, plus we have an inventory lead time of 2 days. So when do we place the order? We need to make sure we place the order 5 days before we need it. So we're going to take 3 days to do the assembly, plus 2 days for the lead time for our order. So we need to place the order for the wings so that we can later decorate them. We need that order to be placed on day 11, which means the wing assembly group will receive our request on day 11, ship them off. It'll take 2 days, and then that'll give us 3 days to do the decorating. So the gross requirement for wing assembly is 120 on week 11. Now when it comes to the wings without the decorations on them, we had none on hand. And we don't expect any to arrive because we don't have them being outsourced elsewhere. So we have 0 on hand, which means to fulfill that gross requirement of 120, our net requirement is 120. Now when it comes to ordering the components to make the wings are shipped, the pieces for the wings are shipped in batches of 50. So to get the components that make the wings, we're going to have to order them in increments of 50. So we can't just order 120. We have to order them in increments of 50, so we would order enough to make 150 wings worth. Now, when do we need to place that order? Well, to make the wings, wing assembly is going to take 6 days, plus we have 2 days for the inventory to arrive. So we need to go back in time, our 6 days, plus 2 days for that lead time for our order, and so we need to order the parts to make 150 wings on day 3. That'll give us enough time for the materials to arrive and for us to assemble. Now the last part of our material requirement planning is to do the cockpit. Now the cockpit is not a component in the wing or the wing decoration. The cockpit is what gets attached to the wings of our Lego planes. So when we look at the requirements for the cockpit, we need 1 cockpit per plane. So notice on day 16, we needed the materials to make 70 planes, which means our gross requirement for day 16 is 70 cockpits. It'll take 2 days to ship them to final assembly and additional days to put it together. We also know that on day 9, final assembly had requested the materials for 15 planes. Well, you need 1 cockpit per plane, so on day 9, we're going to need 15 cockpits. Okay. We currently have 0 cockpits on hand, but we outsource some of the production, and so we should see 30 arriving on day 4, which means on day 5 we will have 30 as well. So on day 9, when we need to send off 15 cockpits, we already have 30 on hand. So our net requirement is 0. We have enough. And in fact, we have more than enough. So the projected on hand after we ship off the 15 cockpits will be 15 left. Which means that on day 16, when we need to send off 70 cockpits to final assembly, we will already have 15 on hand. The net requirement then is the 70 minus 15, so we'll have a net requirement of 55. And since cockpits do not have to be ordered in batches, we can order exactly how many we need. We just need to figure out when we need to place the order for the raw materials that go into the cockpit. So we go back and we find out it's going to take 3 days to assemble the cockpit and 2 days for any materials we order to arrive. So we go back and we count 1, 2, 3 days for our assembly plus 2 days for plus our 2 days for the raw materials to arrive, and that's when we will need to put in our order for our cockpits. So now that we have completed our master production schedule, we can use this information to know when we need to place orders for materials, when we need to start production, and how many we need to create in order to meet our forecasted demand. So we have worked backwards to determine exactly when orders need to be placed, when we need to start production, and how much.